With the bars, callow, cocking with a hot pen. You can't kill it with this glove, it will not fit. Evidence will not stick. Rapping with a self-respecting southerners. What's in your pot? Those are not grits. Spit bars, I stand behind mine. Sentences I serve, maximize guidelines. My lawyer can't give me his advice when he's beast that I murder carry mandatory minimums of life. Yikes! In case you didn't get the point, we spit bars. Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, toddlers and adults, all of that good stuff, everybody in between. Welcome to another episode of The Maximum Sentence, where there's conviction behind the bars. I'm your man, AJ Throwback. Great to be here with you on this special edition on a Monday. We usually do this on a Sunday, but there was a lot going on yesterday. So I decided to shift gears and do this on a special date and time. I didn't want to let the week get away from us and everything, but I appreciate everybody who is tuned in. If you are here, definitely make your presence known. Let me know that you are here so I can acknowledge you and show you some love. I appreciate just your time on a Monday evening. You could be with your kids, you could be anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with yours truly. Once again, AJ Throwback here on The Maximum Sentence, where there's conviction behind the bars. This week, we are continuing the breakdown of my latest single. You hear the instrumental in the background, Temple Thrills, featuring my brother in love, Michael Jalil. Getting a lot of great traction. I appreciate everybody who's been supporting it. And while I'm here, shout out to my family. You know what I'm saying? She hard at work, but she still found time to show love. My family, Shanika Wilson Ross, thank you so much for tuning in, fam. And absolutely, if you are watching this and you are enjoying the content, definitely please feel free to share the live. If this is your first time, whether you're watching this on a replay or whether you're watching this live, if this is your first time here and you are not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please make sure that you do so ASAP. Subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. Make sure you hit that bell notification so whenever I go live, post a new video, premiere a new video, you'll be among the first to know. So I appreciate all the love and support from everyone. But continuing in our breakdown of my latest single, Temple Thrills. Last week we broke down verse 1, basically the starter kit, so to say, to kind of sort of give you an idea of the direction of the song itself. But this week, digging a little bit deeper, going into the second verse. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. I'm not going to do too much more talking. I'm going to let the music do the talking. Let's get into it.
So she pours a little Henny, little Pepsi in a short glass. Sans rock singing, tell me more of your past. Confession and reflection on rejection letters. Knowing I'm a good dude, when's it getting better? But Lord's buzz got taller, now they eyes work. But I have no idea how my mind works. What I've seen is rather obscene. Doubt they want to be the objects in these odd dreams. Downtown trips where every street light's got a green light and every pretty brown round stick. And hot pink heels, fishnets, mini skirts. Missing in the visions, got my choice of any pretty flirt. Cat a corner, pass the water, take it straight and narrow. But walking straight's a hassle when they waste a narrow. With us as liquors and tears of peepers. Star players scoring points with these cheerleaders. Fizz leakers and honeys leaking from her lips. Strizzles in my ear, speaking tons of bliss. Clowns on me saying I could be a dream, but only when you're in my temple can you be redeemed.
All right. You know, because y'all can't get the whole song. If you want to hear the whole song, you have to go to my Bandcamp page. If you don't already have a single, currently it is only available on Bandcamp. And my website, Bandcamp page is ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Once again, ajthrowback.bandcamp.com, or you can go to my website, which is bammllc.net. Once again, bammllc.net. Thank you so much. I appreciate the fire emojis and the smiles and all of that good stuff. I know if I get the dancing ladies, if I get the fire emojis, I get anything positive, you know, I'm doing something right. So I definitely appreciate the love and support. So let's start from the beginning of their second verse. So I say, so she pours a little Henny, little Pepsi in a short glass. Sans rock saying, tell me more of your past. Confession and reflection on rejection letters. Knowing I'm a good dude, when's it getting better? So confession and reflection on rejection letters. Knowing I'm a good dude, when's it getting better? Let's focus in on that particular part. And before I do, shout out to my brother that I always can depend on, you know what I'm saying, along with my fam Shanika, my brother DJ Shane 202 in the virtual building with us. Definitely appreciate your support, my brother. And also, shout out to my family, Genetics on a check-in, the combination of my brothers Joey Bless and Black Gallagher. You know what I'm saying? Always appreciate y'all for popping in. You know what I'm saying? I've been getting a lot of great feedback from pretty much everybody who's here. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it. So, confession and reflection on rejection letters. Knowing I'm a good dude, when's it getting better? So, believe it or not, I went through a lot when I was younger in terms of rejection. You know, I don't feel like I always looked like this when I was a kid. You know, like I had to kind of sort of grow into my swagger, if you will, or my style. It took a while, and I ain't afraid to say it. I was a Stone Cold Bama for a good little bit of time. You know what I'm saying? I was a late bloomer in a lot of different ways, and it was hard for me to kind of sort of make the adjustment, especially when it came to really getting the attention of the fair sex. And it was tough because I went through a lot of like, I could tell y'all some experience. Like one time I'll never forget. So one of my best friends, if he sees this, he'll know this story very well. One of my best friends, his cousin, it was 4th of July and it was dark outside. So I guess I was cute to her when, you know, it was a little bit darker. But then she seen me probably like 2 months later, right around the start of junior high school. And so she seen me, and I guess she was less than impressed with how I looked. And she was like basically regretting her decision of kind of like low-key hollering at me. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt. And probably not too long after that, I'll never forget walking past the table of these young ladies. I went to Jefferson Junior High School, Southwest DC, in the 7th grade. Walked past this group of young ladies, and in unison, it's almost like they practiced it. It's crazy, but they all said at the same time when I walked past, and that really hurt. So it was one of those things where like it started taking digs at my self-esteem. It started making me wonder, like, okay, am I ugly? You know, like, am I funny looking? Like, I just started really just looking at so many different things in myself. Like, I started picking myself apart after a while. Like, it was hard for me to hold on to the confidence that I had because I was basing a lot of my confidence inwardly. And I feel like that's where confidence should come from. But as a kid or as a teenager, sometimes it's hard to hold on to that when you have people telling you what they think of you. And so you go through that period, especially during like those teenage years where you're trying to kind of sort of impress people a little bit more. You worry about what people think a little bit more. So it just really started making me question certain things. You know, like, dang, you're not even giving me the chance to even get to know me. Like you basing how you're going to interact with me off of what you see. And so, but what's interesting is that years later, and I haven't really told anybody this, but like years later, one of the girls that was sitting at that table, she actually apologized to me because she remembered that moment. And she was like, yeah, you know, we were immature at that time and, you know, we didn't understand certain things. And, you know, like, I just wanted to apologize to you. And it made me respect her a whole lot more because the thing is, like, when we're kids and when we're younger, when we're teenagers, we do and say things from a very immature place. But with time and with reflection, we look at things differently. We look at people differently. And the fact that she even thought that much to remember that situation, because a lot of times people do things to you, they don't remember that they did it because they were kids. So much has happened since then. They've lived life and all types of things. Now, granted, I think when she apologized, we either were later in junior high school, or it might have been in high school because we ended up going to the same high school together. But point being is that she had the presence of mind to actually apologize for it. But unfortunately for me, the damage had already been done by that point. And so I kind of sort of battled with self-esteem issues, you know, believe it or not. Yes, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Gotta shout out Jefferson, you know what I'm saying? As we affectionately named ourselves, you know, like Whenever we were referred to each other, we referred to each other as Jeff Bammers. You know what I mean? So, and then Shanika says, it's not easy admitting that most males do not speak about it. And the thing is, you know, as anybody knows about me at this point, I'm not most guys. Like, I approach, especially through my music, I find that it's the easiest medium for me to be able to express my truth and tell my truth without feeling like, okay, it's a full-on therapy session. You know what I mean? Now, granted, a lot of my music is therapeutic. It is a way for me to get out my emotions and the things that I feel and how it affects me. And I mean, this song is definitely one of the greatest representations of that, because I'm talking about a subject that a lot of us guys don't like to talk about from a deeper perspective, and that is sex and how certain things in our lives affect the way or inform the way that it informs the way that we receive sex, or the way that we want sex, the ways that we desire sex. You know what I mean? And that's what we're going to dig into from just those two bars right there. Those two bars are really setup bars. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, awesome. You know what I'm saying? Daughter went there. That's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Fellow Trojan, you know? But yeah, so thinking about the next couple of bars after that, where I say, but lost pudge, got taller, now they eyes work, but have no idea how my mind works. What I've seen is rather obscene. Doubt they want to be the objects in these odd dreams. So when I was in junior high, I was a little bit chunkier, you know, coming in off of the 6th grade. You know, I wasn't the most in shape kid out there. You know, I wanted to play on a football team, but the moment I heard you got to bench at least 125 pounds, I was like, 125 pounds? You serious? Like, yeah, nah. But it took me a while to kind of sort of like get more active. I started playing basketball more. I started just doing different things. I wasn't eating crazy like at one point. You know, of course, I'm a grown boy. I'm still going to eat. But at the same time, I was a lot more physically active, like in my junior high years. So by the time I got to the 9th grade, I had a growth spurt. Like, I wasn't necessarily one of the shortest kids in the class, but I wasn't one of the tallest kids. I was probably like middle ground. But by the time I got to the 9th grade, I was probably one of the tallest kids in my class. You know what I mean? There were still kids that were taller than me, but I wasn't middle of the pack anymore. And I think as a guy, that's another dynamic that I'm not really, or I didn't really get to unpack. But now that I'm really breaking this down, height, when it comes to appeal to the opposite sex, you know, when it comes to appeal to women, women always talk about how they like guys who are tall. And so for me, it was so important for me to be tall, because it's like, well, if I'm tall, then more, you know, I have a higher chance of women liking me, you know. But if I'm short, if I stay this 5'6", 5'7" height for the rest of my life, I'm going to struggle. You know, it's always going to be this thing where it's like women going to want somebody who's more of this or more of that, you know, and it still ended up being that way. But I felt like I had a more of a foot in the door if I could say, you know what, I'm 6 feet tall, I'm a certain build, all right, I'll get more looks. And essentially, that's what ended up happening. You know, not necessarily junior high, because 9th grade, it was a little bit different. Now, granted, 9th grade, I did get a little bit more looks, but it was like high school where the looks came. It was college where the looks came, because I was more mature at that point. I was a little bit more like I was a lot more confident by that point. Junior high was not a good time for my confidence, but high school and college, especially college, my confidence just continued to grow and grow and grow. But by that point, there were certain things that kind of sort of affected how I looked at women. Now, granted, let me be clear. I've always been very respectful of women. I'm not the type of dude to like call women out of their name, or, you know what I'm saying, treat women like just objects or whatever. For the most part, let me put it like that. But at the same time, and this is something that I'm going to tackle a little bit more once I start talking about Molly Webb Walker, is the information or the source of where I learned about sex was not the greatest source of information. It was not the greatest place to really kind of sort of set me on the path of my understanding of how sex and anatomy and all of these things work. I feel like this is something that should have come from my parents. It could have easily came from sex education in school, a lot of different things. Like I just feel like, let's just keep it real. Pornography is the worst. If you are a young man, pornography is probably the worst thing that you could use to help you to understand sex. Even if you don't necessarily look at sex in that way, it's still going to be something sitting in your subconscious that's going to affect how you look at sex. Pornography, all of the videos that were going on at that time, like you think about it, I think I covered this last week. You think about it, you're talking about the early mid 90s. Who was dominating at that time? Luke videos, 2 Live Crew videos dominating. All of those kind of like Miami, Atlanta booty shake jumps. You know what I'm saying? That stuff was ruling the videos, ruling the radio. Think about R. Kelly. R. Kelly was coming into fruition right around 92, 93, 94. You know, this is that time, like right around me being in junior high school. So we were extra charged up when it came to sex and wanting sex. Well, at least most of us was. I was the odd kid. Like for a long time, I wasn't even thinking about it. It's like, yeah, it was sitting in the subconscious, but I wasn't necessarily putting such weight on it or making it such a big deal. You know what I mean? And so, but still, it was still affecting me. It was still sitting in my subconscious nonetheless, because it's like you hear the lyrics, you see the images, all of these different things. You have peer pressure. You have people talking about they having sex already at 12, 13, 14 years old. And it's like, they looking at me like, oh, you ain't gonna get in on it. I'm like, I'm not ready. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's not like the thoughts aren't going through my brain. It's not like the curiosity isn't there. To say that the curiosity wasn't there, that would be a lie, you know. But at the same time, is it making me curious enough to pursue it? No. But is it doing enough to affect my mental and how I'm looking at sex and the opposite sex? Is like, yeah, like there's an effect there. You know what I mean? So let me see. I think I have a comment from someone. I want to make sure I'm always engaging. So Shanika, she says, true facts. This topic needs to be discussed more everywhere. And that's exactly why the Maximum Sentence is here, to bring light to a lot of these topics. Like, for me, it's deeper than the music. Like, yeah, I made a song about it, but for me, it's about creating a discussion point about it, because these are things that don't get talked about, especially when it comes to young men and when it comes to men. Because a lot of times we as men are taught to conquer as many women as we possibly can. So your royal oats, that whole thing. Like, and I never really believed wholeheartedly in doing that, because I wanted deeper connections. You know what I mean? It was crazy because it's like, I wanted a deeper connection, but I also wanted a woman who did some of the stuff and, you know, some of the videos that I seen. You know, it was wild, you know, because my mind was warped. This is how I was receiving information about sex, you know, and this is just keeping it real. So connected to that, downtown trips, where every street light's got a green light and every pretty brown round stick, and hot pink heels, fishnets, mini skirts, missing inhibitions got my choice of any pretty flirt. So the downtown trips, that's a reference to the song Downtown by SWV. When I first heard the song, I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. That's just keeping it. That's how green I was when it came to slang, when it came to sex, when it came to so many different things at that time. You talking like Downtown, I want to say that song, the popularity was right around the time I was 13. And thinking about just the summer of 1993, the music that was on the radio, Downtown by SWV, Lick You Up, and Knockin' the Boots by H-Town. Like, you know, like all of these sexually charged songs, Come Inside by Intro. Like, I could go on and on and on. This is stuff that when you are 13 years old, you really should not be hearing this, because you shouldn't even be thinking about doing it for real, for real. But this is the type of stuff that we were exposed to on the radio. And so I sit there, like, I'll never forget, I had this little girlfriend, like, over the summer of 93, and we'd talk fresh on the phone with each other and all this and all that, claiming what we gonna do. I never forget the Silk Girl You For Me video, where it was a scene where one of the dudes from Silk is eating popcorn off this girl's chest. And I was like, oh, snap, I want to do that. I shouldn't be saying I want to do that at no 13 years old. Like, what I know about that? Because you know what it's going to lead to, and that's keeping it real. So I'm talking fresh on the phone with this girl, like, yeah, I'm going to do that to you in a movie theater. She's like, oh, yeah, like, yeah. I was like, you ain't going to do nothing. Look, but that's unfortunately, that's what we were exposed to. And it's like, we thinking we grown, we thinking we can handle the weight of all of these things because we see it. But not understanding there's a whole emotional component to it. There's a whole spiritual component to it, psychological component to it. It's so heavy that our adolescent brains can't understand it, can't comprehend it, can't really embrace it fully. You know what I mean? But again, this is what we're exposed to. You know what I mean? I want to read a couple comments. So shout out to my brother, Craig Kilgore, Next Level Vision, said, I can't imagine how confused the kids are now. And that's the point. It's even worse. We think we had it bad in the 90s. It's worse now. It's worse. They don't even have no finesse game with how they talk about sex and music now. It is just straight raw. Like, it's the stuff that, here's the separation. Back then, the raunchy lyrics were really in rap. And the smoother lyrics, granted, you had some Jones that could get raunchy in R&B, but it wasn't as raunchy then as it is now. Now it's just like, it's just no kind of like finesse game to it whatsoever. It's like basically like, fucking on your friend and, all this other crazy stuff, or, and they don't even say effing you. They say effing on you. So it's not like they even like connected. It's just like, you just there. You just a body. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the subtleties and how they talk about sex are much different now than back then. You know what I mean? And yes, absolutely. The kids are definitely confused now. And I feel for them, but unfortunately, it's a result of the music that came out in the 90s. Nobody wants to say this. Nobody wants to say this. And I'm not saying it's just the music, because again, you had music, you had the music videos, you had all of the innuendos that are put in commercials, all of the stuff that's put in TV and film, all of the stuff, of course, pornography being out there, like that's always an undercurrent. And now pornography, like back then, it's like you had to know somebody that knew somebody that had a tape, or you had to go order the little joints on the mail order joint. They send it all indiscreet and certain packaging, so nobody would know that you ordering a little nasty tape. You know what I mean? Now it's Pornhub. Now you can just go anywhere and get it. It's so easy. It's like people even clown people for paying for porn. It's like, why are you paying for porn? Just go to Pornhub. That's how easy the access is now to misinformation when it comes to sex. And I'm just gonna keep it real. It's misinformation. It's not the true representation of sex. It's a degraded version. It's Wave versus MP3. And Pornhub is the MP3, because it is not like, it is a degraded version of the original. That's the best way that I can put it. But we'll save more of that for when I talk about Molly Webb Walker in 2 weeks. But anyway, so where was I? So downtown Trish, every street light's got a green light and every pretty brown round's thick. Pretty brown round. That's a reference. That's actually a reference to the Bump and Grind remix by R. Kelly. See, a lot of these things, sometimes I forget the nuances and the subtleties that I put within the lyrics. Like, sometimes I forget, like, I'll write something and it's like, all right, cool, that's a dope line. All right, put it away, constantly recite it. Don't even understand that it's certain little hidden messages or hidden references to stuff. But anyway, so every pretty brown round's thick and hot pink heels, fishnets, mini skirts, Missing inhibitions, got my choice of any pretty flirt. So the more important part at this point is missing inhibitions, got my choice of any pretty flirt. Now this is like an imagination type of thing. Like this is what I imagine the streets of desire being like. Like I can go to any corner and get the woman I want, get the woman I desire. This is what she's wearing. This is the outfit. You know what I'm saying? This is her body type. This is her vibe. Like all of this different thing, like fantasy land. It's really that, like that's really what the reference or that whole little line is. You know, that it's a fantasy land. The downtown trips where every street light's got a green light. Like every street light's got a green light. Everything is on go. You look at a junk. She say, what's up? Like, all right, let's go. Like, it ain't no saying no. Or it ain't no, oh, you look like this. Or you're not enough of this. Or you're not enough of that. It's like, you see the joint you want. You look at her. She look at you. It's just on go. That is fantasy land. That ain't really how it works. You know what I mean? And the whole missing inhibitions. Got my choice of any pretty flirt. It's like, I'm setting conventional wisdom to the side. I'm setting aside how things really should be versus how you imagine them to be. You know what I mean? Or how you've convoluted it in your own brain, because when you mix all of these different things together, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, physically, you mix all these things together, you are a jumbled mess. That's why, going to what Craig and what Shanika said, that's why the kids are confused, because of all of these different factors. And I'm sure a lot of these kids now are going through the same issues that I'm talking about right now, whether it's men or women. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure a lot of them have had to go through self-esteem issues. And a lot of times when you go through self-esteem issues, you find yourself overcompensating. And I won't say that I went too far to that extreme, but to say that I never tried to overcompensate in some form of fashion is not telling the full truth, because I did. And that's just keeping it real. You know what I mean? Shanika, she says, man, I wish the young generation could hear you speak now. They didn't need to hear the facts. She said, I mean, they need to hear the facts. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And this is stuff that honestly, a lot of people they're not always receptive to hearing, you know what I mean? Because I said this in a broadcast I did. Shout out to my man Chels. We were actually talking about relationships, and he asked me a question along the lines of, did my father tell me certain things about relationships? And I was like, he did, but when I was older and when I was in a position where I could receive it. Unfortunately, a lot of these kids now, you can't tell. They're even worse than we were when we were kids. Whereas you can't tell them anything. So they have to be in a place where they receive the information. And if they see it and they're blessed by it and it helps them out and helps them approach sex differently than what society is telling them, then, I mean, that's a blessing in and of itself. But I definitely hope somebody does see this and take heed. Shout out to my brother, Jason of Rap Olympus Media. Appreciate you so much for tuning in, my brother. Always appreciate your support, and appreciate all of your support when it comes to everything that I've been having going on with the Late Bloomer series. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate your support, my brother. But yeah, bear with me 1 second, everybody. But just bear with me 1 second. I always want to make sure. Yes. Okay. So, continuing on, and while I'm sitting here, and also, if you hear anything, if you know the song, and there are any lyrics that you want just a little bit deeper of a breakdown to, definitely feel free to comment, or like if you just hear anything that I'm talking about and you have a question about anything that I'm talking about, please feel free to ask. This is a free-flowing discussion, even though it's just me on here. Like, I definitely answer questions, and I definitely like to pull people in and make sure that y'all are involved in this process too, because yes, this is about my music, but these topics are communal, you know what I mean? So, but cat a corner, past the warning, take the straight and narrow, but walking straight's a hassle when a waist and narrow, with luscious liquors and piercing peepers, star players score points with these cheering leaders. Fear is weaker as the honey's leaking from her lips. Drizzles in my ear, speaking tongues of bliss. Climbs on me saying I can be your dream, but only when you're in my temple can you be redeemed. And the reason why I went through all 8 bars of that particular stretch is because if you look at the bookends of that stretch, cat a corner, pass the warner, take the straight and narrow. And then on the other end of that, but only when you're in my temple can you be redeemed. So once again, it goes back to the first verse that speaks more to the spiritual battle, the spiritual tug of war that goes on when it comes to how we connect with sex, how we respect the creation of it versus doing what the world tells us we should do. You know what I'm saying? Get as much as you can. Get it where you can. Get it from whoever you want. All of these different things, like throw caution to the wind. And it's like, it's that battle. Like, okay, during this time, and why it's important is because during this time, right around like 93, 94, I first like started going to church of my own volition. Because before, you know, I was going to church with my mom, and, you know, was going to church because basically mom was making us go to church. But then I got to a point where I decided to go to church on my own. And so I'm reading the word. I'm hearing these things that my pastor is saying when it comes to sex. Now, granted, my pastor didn't really get too deep into it, but he did talk about it. And so in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, well, I know what the word says. I know what the pastor says. I know what people who are in the church say. I know people who are Christians, what they say when it comes to sex and how you should save it for marriage. Again, I go back to what I said last week. My whole goal when I got to a certain point of my adolescent years was that I wanted to wait until I was 23 to get married, wait to have sex, then have kids by the time I was 25. That was my whole goal. I was going to save it for marriage. You know what I mean? But it didn't end up being that way. But there was a 5-year period where it was that back and forth, where it was that whole thing like, on one hand, this is what I'm hearing from the pastor. On another hand, I go to the go-go's and I got girls taking my hands and literally putting it under their bra, putting it on their titties. You know what I'm saying? And look, y'all know me. I keep it 100 on this joint. I lie to you not. I've told this story before. Stadium Armory, well, DC Armory, Junkyard is playing. Titty Balls comes on. You know, anybody that knows Go-Go know that's one of they little raunchy songs that they can't really play on the radio. But if you go to the Go-Go's, you know about Titty Balls. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't know what Titty Balls are, they breasts. So Titty Balls comes on. I'm chilling. I'm dancing with this girl. She literally takes my hands and puts them on her breast, under her shirt, and puts them on her breast. I'm like, oh, this is how we moving with this song? Oh, all right. You know what I'm saying? Again, green as a mug, 16 years old, still by that point, you know, still a virgin. And it just really charged up like any bit of sexual feelings that I might have been repressing or I might not was addressing because it was like I wasn't even thinking along those lines strongly. That kind of changed in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, this is what happens at the Go-Go's. You know what I'm saying? Like when songs like this come on. And the girl couldn't have been no younger than, not that much younger than me, maybe like a year or two younger than me. You know what I'm saying? But this is the type of stuff that was going on. Now, I don't know how old the girl was. I know she, you know, look, I'm 16. She probably 15, 14. But it's like, that's how fresh the girls were at the Go-Go. That's the type of stuff we was dealing with at the Go-Go. You know, and at that time, I'm not thinking about, okay, there's a 1 or 2 year difference between us. I'm thinking about the fact that this girl took my hands and put them on her titties underneath her shirt. Like, you don't think at 16 how inappropriate this is for a 16-year-old or for a teenager. Like, this is inappropriate behavior. You're not thinking that at that time, you know? So that kind of sort of feeds into, but walking straight to hassle when her waist is narrow. or the waist is narrow, with luscious liquors and piercing peepers. Star players scoring points with these cheerleaders. Fear is weaker as the honey's leaking from her lips. Now, the honey leaking from her lips, that's actually a biblical reference. And I'm going to actually try to see if I can find the Bible verse that comes from. Let me see. It's like her talk is sweet as honey or something like that. I'm going to find the verse. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. That's not it. For the lips, here we go. Proverbs 5:3. Yes, Proverbs 5:3. So that's what that is a reference to. A lot of things that I do, y'all, are often Bible references or spiritual references. So, but let me see if I can find the full verse, because they gave me a verse, but I'm trying to find, because the next line is important. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. All right. So Proverbs 5:3. Or verses 3-4 says, "For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword." And so that was the honey reference. And why there was so much emphasis on the lips, luscious liquors, piercing peepers, star players scoring points with these cheerleaders. Fear is weaker as the honey's leaking from her lips. Drizzles in my ear, speaking tongues of bliss. Like, speaking in tongues. Like, you think of speaking in tongues, like, you usually think Christianity, other religions where, you know, speaking in tongues is a thing. I'm sure Islam is the same way. Or being a Muslim is the same way. But the thing is, when you flip something that's meant to be sacred into something that's not sacred anymore, and you make that your God, you make that your idol, going back to the original title of the song, American Idol, you value that above what you know God says. Or for me, I value that above what I knew God said. I knew God said, wait until you're married. I could have easily done it. That's just it. Well, yeah, I could have easily done it. I'm not going to sit here and like let myself off the hook like that, because I didn't do it for 20 years of my life. I was a virgin up until the time I was 20. I could have waited if I really wanted to. But because I did what I wanted to do, and I allowed the immoral woman, which is represented as sex in this song, to convince me that I needed to do whatever I needed to do to get what I wanted, to get a taste of it, to see what it was like. And then once I got a taste of it, it became a chase, a constant chase after that. It was one of those things where it led me down some dangerous paths, a lot of dangerous paths. And that's where the dangerous as a double-edged sword comes in. You know what I mean? And the bitterness, she is as bitter as poison. I think about all of the bitterness that came about once I got it. And we'll dig more into that once we dig into the third verse. But while we're here and we're breaking down the lyrics and tying in this Bible verse into it, the bitterness that happened because of me getting it, but then still taking shots at my self-esteem once I got it. This false sense of, oh, I made it. This false sense of, oh, I'm accepted. Oh, I got affection. Or, oh, I have love. Or, oh, I have somebody who desires me, somebody who wants me. And then there's the digs at my self-esteem. Even once I get it. Even still feeling like I'm not enough, not good enough. Like, you got it, but at what cost? And frankly, that's where we'll leave it, because the costs are where the sacrifices are what are going to be covered in the third verse. The third verse, y'all, let me tell y'all, third verse is really going to break down the layers or really dig into the things that I went through in order to continue to get this pursuit of something that was meant to be sacred, but I bastardized it. And that's just keeping it real. I got some comments from folks I definitely want to make sure that I tap into. So Shanika said, wow. Then she said, my brother was an original member of the Junkyard Band. Really? Who was your brother? Oh, Petey. Oh, snap. Petey's your brother? That's dope. That's dope. Yeah, I mean, anybody who know about Junkyard know about Petey. You know what I'm saying? So that's awesome. Talk about small world. That's amazing. And then she said Proverbs is one of my favorite scriptures. There are so many great messages in Proverbs alone. I think Proverbs is probably my favorite book in the Bible, just because a lot of it is, yes, it's Christian based, but I feel like it goes across or goes beyond the pale of just Christianity. I feel like if you are a person who wants to be a better person, just read Proverbs. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, there is God in Proverbs, but there is also less of the, I guess, the religious overtones of what a lot of the Bible can be in Proverbs. So I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. But yeah, that's like I said, that's basically where we're gonna leave it this evening when it comes to verse number 2 of Temple Thrills. I feel like this sets up the last episode that we're going to talk about, because of course this is the 3-part series. Part 1 was last week. This is part 2. So part 3 is going to be next week as I break down the third verse. And the third verse, like I said, is very layered. It might be a little bit longer because it's a longer verse. Like, it's a 32 bar verse. Now, I might not go bar for bar, but there are going to be some stories behind them bars when it comes to the third verse. You know what I mean? So definitely make sure that y'all stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, between time, if you do not have my latest single, Temple Thrills, featuring my brother in love, Michael Jalil, and also engineered by Gladiator, please make sure that you get that. It is backed with Molly Webb Walker, which feeds heavily off of the vibe of this song, but specifically gets into talking about pornography. Definitely make sure that y'all get this single. And shout out to my brother. He just got it probably like maybe a half hour or so before I went live for this. Shout out to my brother Max Eugene. He got his copy of Temple Thrills. I appreciate you, my brother. If you don't have yours, make sure that you get it ASAP. It is available on my Bandcamp page, which is ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Once again, that's ajthrowback.bandcamp.com, or you can go to my website, which is a one-stop shop for everything, which is BAMMLLC.net. Once again, BAMMLLC.net. If you want to go specifically to the page, that is BAMMLLC.net/music. Everything is scrolling at the bottom of the screen right now. So if you miss me saying it, you can actually see it right before your eyes. And everything is also in the description of this video. So definitely appreciate everybody who has supported it, who has streamed it, who has showed it love, and pray that you just continue to share it with people. Listen to it, blow it up. Help me blow this music up. And I appreciate everybody who's been getting my entire discography. By the way, since I'm talking about discographies and I'm talking about Bandcamp, this Friday, February 3rd, from I think it's 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to Saturday, February 4th at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Bandcamp Fridays returns. Bandcamp Friday is important because they waive the revenue share. So anytime you buy music off of Bandcamp, they charge us a revenue share because, you know, they're a service that is a lot like, say, like the DistroKids, TuneCores, CD Babies, places like that. But like they cut out a lot of the middleman. Like this is basically your store where you sell your music. But of course, it's a service, so they got to charge something. But on Bandcamp Friday, and they started this during the pandemic to help a lot of independent musicians out. They started Bandcamp Fridays where they waived the revenue share. So this Friday, once again, Friday, February 3rd, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until Saturday, February 4th at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bandcamp Fridays will be in effect. So if you don't have it, I tell you, if you want to get it off Bandcamp, wait until Friday and get it off Bandcamp. If you want to get just a single, you want to get a couple singles, or you want to get an EP, or if you want to get my entire discography, Bandcamp is the only place you can get my entire discography at a discount. You can't get it anywhere else on discount, only on Bandcamp. And if you get it on Bandcamp, you can get bonus tracks if you get the Late Bloomer 2 that you're not going to hear anywhere else. But again, if you just want to start off with the single, if you're really feeling the single Temple Thrills, just start there. And I'm so appreciative. So appreciate everybody who has been supporting thus far. If you are not already following me on social media, please do so ASAP. I am at AJ Throwback. Once again, at AJ Throwback on Facebook and Twitter, and at a.j.throwback on Instagram and TikTok. I am not at AJ Throwback DC on Instagram. Let me put that out there. I had to put out a status earlier today because people kept tagging the AJ Throwback DC page when that page got hacked back in November 2021. You know, I've been a.j.throwback for the last, what are we talking, 14 months now, almost 15 months. So follow that page. Any other page that ain't that on Instagram is a fraud. It's a.j.throwback. And here on YouTube, it is AJ Throwback 928. Once again, AJ Throwback 928 here on YouTube. If you are watching this live, if you're watching this on a replay, first and foremost, I appreciate you for giving up your time this evening. And I also appreciate those likes, those comments, those shares, and those subscriptions. Make sure that you hit that bell notification so whenever I go live, post a new video, premiere a new video, you'll be among the first to know. And y'all see the hat, y'all know how I roll. I always got some form of batch gear on whenever I do these broadcasts, especially since I've had it and we about to come up on the year anniversary of Balancing Act Trinkets and Clothing House. That's what batch is short for. If you don't have your batch gear already and you want to see what else I have in the arsenal, please make sure that you go to BAMMLLC.net/shop batch. Once again, BAMMLLC.net/shop batch. I'm going to be adding new merchandise within the coming weeks, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And I appreciate everybody who has supported the brand thus far in the 10 months that we have been a brand. So definitely appreciate that. I think I got another comment. Let me see. Yes, absolutely. And then Shanika, she said, mine's too. I love the virtuous woman story. Yes, absolutely. Proverbs 31. That is like one of the most powerful chapters in Proverbs. And I mean, you know, a lot of times that is a very much quoted chapter in Proverbs. It takes a lot to be that woman, just like it takes a lot to be the men, the type of virtuous men that are described in the Bible. To be of that particular ilk, it takes work. So if you are working on that, whether you're a man or you're a woman, I salute you. You know what I mean? So I think that is all of the promotions that I need to do. Once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Oh, tomorrow on the Return to Black Broadway podcast, hosted by Gideon Peoples and yours truly, on the Return to Black Broadway YouTube channel, which is Return to Black, the number 2 Black Broadway. We're going to be welcoming community activist, concerned citizen, and my fellow School Without Walls Penguin sister, Lamontria Cruz. We're going to be having a serious discussion tomorrow, y'all, about the violence going on among the youth, specifically in Ward 4 of Washington, D.C., and the police response to it. So definitely make sure that y'all tune in for that discussion. That is a huge amount of why we do the Return to Black Broadway podcast. So please make sure that y'all tune in for that. That once again, that will be tomorrow, Tuesday, January 31st at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Return to Black Broadway podcast YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff with that channel as well. Friday, Flowers Friday. Y'all know how I do. Platform where I give away flowers to those who are positively impacting my life every single day, every single week. in my life overall, all of that good stuff. And it's the opportunity for y'all to do the same. That's going to be on my Instagram, which is j.throwback at noon Eastern Standard Time this Friday. So definitely make sure that y'all tap in for that. And then next Sunday will be when we come back with the Maximum Sentence. I think I'm going to do 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because there's nothing major going on that day. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday, February 5th. So definitely make sure that y'all tune in for that. And that will be the third verse breakdown of my single Temple Thrill. So make sure that y'all come back. Make sure that you tell a friend. Make sure that you share this with somebody who you feel might get some value out of this conversation, out of this discussion. And share the song with somebody who you feel like might like the song. If it's tickling your ears, I'm sure it'll tickle somebody else's ears because more than likely, you got people that like the same music that you like. So definitely make sure that you tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend again. So once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm going to read these last couple of comments. Let's see, Shanika said, yes, it does. And then said, keep me posted. We in War 4. Yeah, I know. So you definitely want to make sure that you tap in for that. I will make sure that I send you that when we go live tomorrow. And if you can tap in for a little bit, that'll be great. But if you can tap in on a replay, either way, you know what I'm saying? We appreciate the support. So once again, this has been the Maximum Sentence hosted by yours truly, AJ Throwback. And this is the platform where there's conviction behind the bars. Until next Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will see y'all later. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your upcoming weekend. And yeah, remember, it's always deeper than the music when it comes down to these things, y'all. All right? So y'all take care, be blessed, all that good stuff. Peace.